Welcome to the studio at African Utility Week. I'm Rose Bundock and I'm joined now by Mark Coyle.
Hello.
Vice President of Cyan.
Yeah.
Mark, I was looking at the financial highlights that your company put out recently and see that you've increased revenue by 40% year on year, 2013 to 2014. Has your kind of global expansion helped those figures?
Cyan is very focused on developing nations around the world, and we're keen to support their economic and social development. So as those markets increase in their prosperity and start to connect more people in energy and then enhance the quality of service, that increases their desire for smart solutions. And our solution is designed to meet their needs precisely. It was focused on them from the start. So we're actually seeking to be an enabling partner in their growth. And what that means is that their success is our success. It's reciprocal. And as we grow, we seek then to turn that back into investment in further helping those countries grow. So it's really exciting to see that the double-digit growth countries around the world over the next 10, 20 years excuse me, are going to be the Asia-Pacific Rim and Africa and Latin America, which is where we're focused. So it's an exciting opportunity for Cyan, and we are aligning very carefully our efforts to make sure that we can continue to contribute to their further development.
So you have strong presence in Brazil, India, and now you're setting sights on Africa.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the developing nations that we focused on in the company are the fastest growing areas of the world. So we have a big presence in, for example, smart lighting in China, smart metering and lighting in Brazil. As you say, a strong presence in India with an operating company there. And Africa to us is the next piece of the puzzle in that it's growing very quickly, it's very capable, there's lots of talent and capability embedded here, and a real desire to grow economically as quickly as possible and bring everyone in society with them. And so that creates a real driver for energy requirements, for security of supply, affordability of energy and sustainability. And that creates demand for the type of solutions that we've created to meet those particular requirements. So what we're doing is embedding ourselves into the market as a partner through creating an ecosystem of companies we work with. We're very proud to be partnered with Xlink, with Adenco, to be working with companies such as Vodacom, and then to grow local value in this ecosystem that they can go and deploy and we can help enable. And in particular share best practice from the other developing nations around the world into South Africa and then across wider Africa, but also then as this continent grows very quickly to take that best practice that emerges here back into other parts of the world and create a collaboration across these developing nations.
So will we see Cyan pitching for tenders in South Africa and beyond, this year?
We will see our local partners who understand the requirements very closely, who are aligned with the market and come from here. They will be bidding and engaged in the market and are already. And Cyan will be there as a strong brand name behind them with our aligned platform and ecosystem of value that will be the thing that they can leverage that really makes the competitive difference for them in the marketplace.
From your research, what other African countries do you feel would be the next kind of focus point?
We see kind of three stages of development across Africa emerging. There are those that are strongly developed already, such as South Africa, and seeking to bring everyone to the same level and really push out as an economic hub across the world. We then see second stage countries that are at a mixed stage of development and with different stages of population evolution, big countries like Nigeria and Egypt, and then a set of countries who are seeking to do the first stage of let's understand our customers, let's get meters in place, let's read those meters properly and then build value from there. And so there are tenders out in places like Kenya, Zimbabwe, Mozambique that we are engaging in through our partners, again local to those countries. And what we see around South Africa is that becoming a hub nation for Africa. And indeed, I think this event showcases that people come here, they want to understand African value, they want to see it be local, and also then to create value that they can take back into their own countries and share experiences. And so South Africa is the gateway nation for us into wider Africa, and through our partners, both in South Africa and across the continent, we'll then be seeking to show more value, to be bringing more benefits, and to be doing that on the quickest basis that really makes the biggest social contribution.
And just to touch on your other markets, I mean, India appears to be very hot at the moment with the 100, smart cities.
Yeah.
What is it like on the ground? What are your country partners telling you?
Everyone across the world now is focused on India as one of the fastest growing, world-leading nations. And Cyan saw that coming a long time ago and started to engage in that market and to really bring in a local team and develop local utility partnerships over the long term, and to build up a shared sense of trust and understanding, and to demonstrate our value, so that at the time when they were looking to accelerate the growth of benefits to go to scale, they could trust that Cyan was aligned, was proven, and understood how to operate in that country. Because there are lots of organizations come to India or South Africa or other countries and try and sell from the outside. And that's the antithesis of what Cyan is about. Cyan is about working from the inside of that country, building up the relationships and partnerships, and then transferring our capabilities in to be leveraged by our customers and our partners themselves. And we think then that's an aligned model that's very attractive to India, and we're not trying to accelerate or shortcut the engagement. What we're trying to do is have all of those relationships in place. So India right now is at that point of how do they move from the big announcements into the deliveries at scale on the ground. And we've done a lot of the work over the last few years around proof of concepts and trials, and in some really difficult areas and some very challenging requirements, and they're delivered. And we announced recently a big amount of progress with Tata Power in achieving 4,000 meter installs on the ground for them, and that was a key signature delivery for us and for them, because this is all about proving themselves as capable, or as having all the capabilities and benefits ready to go at scale at the time that's right for them.
So when are we going to see large-scale rollouts happening in India?
In India?
Yeah.
I guess they would be better to answer that than myself, but I suspect over the next few years what we'll see is a rolling up from proof of concepts and trials into first stage deliveries, and then into the bigger kind of volume deliveries. You've got to remember, India is such a huge country, and it's very different in terms of the utility structure and the different states within India. So what we won't see is one smart meter contract that gets landed for tens or hundreds of millions in the next year or the next couple of years. What we'll see is an organic evolution from the work that's already happening, rolling up into bigger numbers, and then getting to the point and the confidence and the financing model then to extend that across the population at different rates of progress with different requirements.
Can we just talk about technology now? I mean, you spent 25% more on research and development year on year. That's obviously a big thing for you. What kind of technologies are you deploying specifically for India?
Yeah, so one of the things that Cyan's been doing over the last 10 years is moving from being a hardware company into an integrated platform provider. That platform comprises our communications modules and the infrastructure around that. It comprises then the connectivity and the communication, the real-time communications, along with software and managed services that really complete the value for the utility or the lighting provider that we're working with. And so our research and development to date has been to create this commercialized scale platform that's ready for deployment with all of the required parts in it, because things like meters or hardware communications over time get commoditized and standardized. Where the research is best applied is in the specific requirements of markets and their evolution, and to align our solution to make sure we're meeting those precisely, particularly with emerging nations and developing economies having different requirements and different stages of evolution in comparison to many of the Western countries which have developed their own smart metering technologies and done deployments to date. There's a big difference in the expectation, the cost point, the infrastructure that's available in some of the developing countries to leverage, which means you really have to focus in on their needs. And so our research and development is applied on what's happening in South Africa, what spectrum is available, what is the ecosystem of providers that utilities are working with, how does our technology, both hardware and software and services, align to that, and how then do we do the integration and utility enablement to leverage the value of the data.
Okay, I mean, so you have a technology that turns a dumb meter into a smart one.
Yeah, the retrofit, yes.
The retrofit. Do you think that's something that would, is a kind of complete solution for Africa to
Well, I think in the stages of evolution of different markets, they need different things at each time. And around the world and in Africa, there has been an investment made in digital meters over the last 20 years. And there are millions of those in place all over. The problem has been, how do you collect data from those meters? How do you then use that data to improve the accuracy and the operation of the grid and security of supply in those countries? And how do you assure the revenues so that those meters aren't tampered with? And what that really is the fact that the hardware meter went in before the communications revolution. And it wasn't embedded at the time, and the communication side of these economies is growing slower than the ability to deploy a physical device. So what we've done is try and bridge that, because the investment that's been made in meters or lights to date is sunk. No one's going to just take out that meter and replace it with a new all singing, all dancing smart meter when there's a good capability already there. So what we did is look at the developing markets and realize that if we could create a communications platform that in part could work with the existing infrastructure, that would accelerate the benefits, it would lower the cost, and it would achieve a lot of the outcomes that are needed now without then having to start with the big national top-down programs, which are very hard to get a business case for and take a long time to go through regulatory approval. Many of those programs will still happen, but they take a long time, and the financing of them in markets where revenue assurance isn't guaranteed can be very difficult. So the retrofit offers a great way of accelerating benefits and getting going, and then really focusing on the customer journey and on the grid and revenue assurance, and then looking at where the market goes from there.
And lastly, obviously we're in South Africa, you're aware of the electricity crisis, shortage here. Do you think smart meters can help?
I think they can. I mean, smart meters in themselves, the actual device, is the starting point for applying the data that's in the meter and the communications to the benefit of all of the stakeholders. And what I mean by that is the customer themselves, the utility, the grid provider, and the financiers who are financing both the meters and the enhancement of security on the grid. And so what smart meters can do is start to give a better experience to the customer and help them really place a value on the energy, to personalize the experience so that they can pay for it as they go. They can start to manage energies and along with their affordability. And because they value that energy and that connectivity, what that also means is they're more likely to pay. And so you can get a better relationship with the grid. The grid can improve their revenue assurance, or the utility can. You can reinvest that money then in grid improvements, in driving out non-technical losses, and improving system security. And the better the system is, and the more it can be relied upon, and the more people can create opportunity in business or in their working lives based on that assured continuity of supply, you create a virtuous circle of them being willing to pay. And that then attracts financing, because they can see that the model works and that they can bring that financing in to the infrastructure at the consumer end, but also to the grid itself, and everyone starts to benefit. But so smart meter for us is a foundation enabler along with the communications. And the next stage of our journey that's so exciting and of the market is then it's all about how you use the data, how you improve the business processes and the intelligence of utilities, and how you help customers be a participant in that journey so that, for example, they can be rewarded for their flexibility of when they take their energy, and can start to be a participant in the actual evolution of the market as opposed to just someone who pays for energy.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
All the best.
Thank you for joining us at African Utility Week. That's all for now. Thanks.